and Linda's going to call the roll. And if I know there's a few substitutes here, so if you're substituting, just correct Linda as she calls the roll and give her your proper name.
Senator Hart.
Here.
Representative Mitchell.
Here.
Senator Wintrow is not here yet. Representative Manwaring is not here yet. Rogers is not here. Paige Matheson.
Here.
Arnold Thomas.
Present.
Jennifer Porter.
Present.
Donna Thompson. Present. Shannon Wheeler.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Linda. We've opened in prayer in the past. If anybody wants to say a prayer, we're welcome to give you that opportunity. Do we have any volunteers?
I'll say the prayer.
Okay.
Arnold Thomas is volunteering me. So.
All right.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, first of all, we lift you up. We praise you. We bow our hearts before you. Thank you for all that you are in our lives, for creating all the things that we see, creating us, Father, and creating the boundaries in which we live, giving us the ability to love and to have relationship. We ask, Lord, that you continue to be with us as we continue to be servants here, Father, to your people that you've placed us amongst. Help us to find good answers that benefit all the people that we live around and amongst. Father, give us strength and courage to do the things that we ought to do. And we say these things in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, the first item on the agenda is opening remarks from Senator Hart and Chief Allen. In this case, it'll be Mr. Matheson. But we just want to welcome you all here, whether we have a full agenda or just a few items on the agenda. I think it's good we meet twice a year just to keep the lines of communication open and develop the relationships so that we can solve our problems in a setting like this. So that's my comment, and does the co-chair have a comment?
Yeah, and I likewise welcome everybody here. I think this is a great opportunity for tribes to be able to be directly involved in advising tribes in unique ways. And so having this as an opportunity and a forum to be able to say, here's how tribes are going to be impacted by certain things that the Idaho legislature will face is critical and important to us, and we appreciate being here.
Okay, thank you. And then when we speak, remember to turn our mics on. So we can hear in this room pretty well, but there'll be people watching online, and they'll need the mic on to hear us. I'm going to skip the minutes for now and see if Blake Ude is here, and we'll go to this next item on the agenda, talk about Senate Bill 1255.
Good afternoon, co-chairs, members of the council. For the record, my name is Blake Ude here on behalf of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes. I was asked to provide a brief overview of Senate Bill 1255, which is legislation that's progressing through the Senate side right now. It was unanimously passed through the Senate Health and Welfare Committee and is now on the third reading calendar for the Senate, which essentially is the final vote by the Senate. And if it passes there, then it will go over to the House to proceed through their side of the legislative process. This is legislation that I think all of the tribes at some point or another have been impacted by this issue of involuntary committals and just trying to efficiently have the process initiated when you have an individual who is in a severe mental illness crisis. And by severe, I mean, essentially severe injury or harm to themselves or those around them. What the legislation does is it amends the current section 66-326 titled "Detention Without a Hearing." This is the section of code that says that a person may be detained at a hospital or either by law enforcement or I should say a peace officer, or by medical professionals to initiate exams for someone who's having one of these crises, particularly if they're not committing a crime. Because when this is occurring and you haven't committed a crime, state law says that the individual cannot be held in a prison. So that leaves a healthcare facility to be the primary facility. What we have proposed in this legislation is to say they could either be initially detained in a hospital or a tribal healthcare facility. Because I don't know that it was an oversight, but the clarification is necessary and helpful. And then we also clarified the definition of peace officer just for purposes of this section to include a tribal police officer. And essentially, the reason we have proposed this is because when you have a person who's having one of these crises, it can be difficult to get them out to a reservation. And in my case with my client, it's out to Fort Hall. And this provides us an opportunity to more quickly get them into a proper setting to start having the examination done for the benefit of themselves and others around them. It does not change the court proceedings that occur after that for custody issues for the state. It just merely helps to initiate them faster. And it also, we don't believe, causes any sort of fiscal impact to the state or counties, because eventually these individuals are going to end up in this kind of system. All we're trying to do is have it happen faster to prevent a worse event from occurring. I think the other, besides expediting it, the other reason that we have, in working with the other tribes, found this to be helpful possibly is sometimes it's received better if there's an individual who within the tribes who initiates these kind of interactions or these kind of exams and detentions, rather than having law enforcement or a physician who doesn't have a relationship with in my case, say the Shoshone-Bannock tribes, but I know this has also been an issue with the others as well. We have had no opposition. It's sponsored by Senator Mark Harris, who has a small northwest corner of his legislative district includes Fort Hall. The co-sponsors include Senator Julie Van Orden, who's also the chairwoman of Senate Health and Welfare. She is from Pingree. Senator Melissa Wintro out of Boise is a co-sponsor. Thank you, ma'am. And then Representative Lori McCann is also a co-sponsor of this legislation. While I don't have a crystal ball, I would take a wild guess that this could probably be voted on by the Senate as soon as Friday or else early next week. And with that, I am happy to stand for questions.
Okay, does anyone have questions for Blake Ude? We want to welcome Senator Withrow here. Thanks for coming. We heard you were delayed. Okay, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak on Senate Bill 1255? Go ahead.
Chairman, is that what you prefer to be called? Regarding this bill here, I haven't had a chance to review it, but I know within the Veterans Health Administration, there is something called pink sheeting. When a veteran's in crisis, they'll send a crisis team out with law enforcement, along with a social worker and a few professionals. Is this similar to something that the Veterans Health Administration has in place? Are you aware?
Mr. Ude, could you answer that?
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, no, I am not aware, but I'm happy to look into that and see where the parallels are.
Okay.
And then I can report back through the council leadership to send that out.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that because it is, I think, essential. I have a background in counseling, and so I think it's imperative that we do implement professional help, because I know law enforcement, they're not social workers or counselors. So at some point as tribes, to be able to hire qualified traditional practitioners to assist when there is a tribal member in crisis, not just on tribal lands, but throughout the state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any other remarks on Senate Bill 1255? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no one else who wants to speak on Senate Bill 1255, next on the agenda is Michael Steely to talk about Medicaid. Is he here? There you are. If I remember right, you're from Utah. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the committee, to the council.
Good afternoon, co-chairs and council. I'm Mike Steele. I'm the policy analyst for the Shoshone tribes, and I apologize to the tribal leaders here because they've heard me a lot today, so I'll try to be brief. But I'd like to spend a few minutes highlighting the importance of preserving Medicaid for Indians and Medicaid expansion. I acknowledge first that right now there are no proposed cuts to Medicaid on the table this legislative session. However, we know that cuts to programs or services could be entertained in the future by the legislature or executive branch. For example, last fall, cuts to behavioral health programs abruptly took place. The impacts of these cuts are still being measured, but tribes will likely have to subsidize the effects of these services, of cuts to these services. One of the principal statutory obligations of the United States under its trust and treaty responsibilities is the provision to provide health care to Indians. Through the years, Congress delegated some of this statutory responsibility to the state through Medicaid. However, unlike non-tribal programs, the federal government reimburses the state 100% of Medicaid charges for Indians. Speaking for the Shoshone tribes, currently 54% of tribal members living on Fort Hall Indian Reservation are enrolled in Medicaid. Medicaid funding is vital to operate its Indian Health Service and tribal health clinics. The funding received through Medicaid direct payments and reimbursements represent 82% of the tribal health and human services budget. Direct benefits to Medicaid to tribal members include, first, ensuring eligible tribal members receive needed health care. Second, reducing persistent disparities in health care and medical services. Third, funding the expansion of existing and new health care services. Hiring additional staff. Funding mental health and substance use disorder services. Expanding access to pediatric dental care. And lastly, providing short-term rehabilitation services and assisted living services. The past year that I've worked for the Shoshone tribes, I've seen firsthand the importance of Medicaid. I see individuals on a weekly basis, sometimes daily basis, just walking past my office who, and many of them are vulnerable children or elders or other tribal members that are really suffering. Some of these individuals are suffering from behavioral health and substance abuse issues. The need is staggering, and Medicaid saves lives. Last session, Idaho set the standard for the entire country by providing exemptions to Indians for changes in statute for Medicaid that were also included in one big, beautiful bill. Now, Idaho can again set the standard by exempting Indians from any future cuts to Medicaid and Medicaid expansion programs or services. Considering that the state is reimbursed for 100% of Medicaid Indian expenses for Indians, at this time, I'd like to propose that the council draft a letter to the JFAC and Health and Welfare, urging them to preserve Medicaid and exempt Indians from any cuts to programs or services that may be on the horizon. With that, I'll take some questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Thomas, do you have a question for Mr. Steele? Okay. I have a question. The state would be reimbursed 100% for any Medicaid expenses related to tribal members. Where does that reimbursement come from? What agency would that come out of?
I will have to fact check myself because I'm not an expert on that, but it's CMS to Health and Welfare is my understanding. And there might be some people that I might be able to phone a friend.
Okay.
But it is factual that 100% of Medicaid services billed for Indians are reimbursed by the federal government versus the 90% for non-Indians.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Steele? Senator Renthrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Steele, I appreciate your presentation. Again, I apologize for being late. Currently, with the cuts that Medicaid has occurred and rate reductions, that hasn't been applied to the tribes, or has it? in services?
I have not been able, Senator Withrow, I have not been able to crack the code on that yet, but I will get the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe we could get that answer in JFAC. I just wasn't aware how that worked with the tribes and making sure that we are keeping them whole.
Okay, thank you, Senator Withrow. Mr. Steele, if we do draft the letter you propose, we could put that information in the letter. I think JFAC would like to know where those monies are coming from. Any other discussion or questions for Mr. Steele? Can you repeat your request for writing this letter, and then maybe one of the members of the council will turn that into a motion?
I'd like to, Mr. Co-Chair, I'd like to propose that the council draft a letter to the JFAC and Health and Welfare urging them to preserve Medicaid and exempt Indians from any cuts to Medicaid programs that may be on the horizon.
Okay. Was that something you have written down? And if you do, could you give it to Linda? Or where is Linda? There you are. Okay. Can you write that down? And does anybody on the council wish to make a motion to put a letter like that together?
Mr. Chairman, Donna Thompson, Shoshone Bannock, I will make that motion.
Okay. Turn your mic on and just say, I move. And
I move.
okay.
Do that motion.
Donna Thompson moves to have the letter drafted as Mr. Steele explained it. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Senator Withrow seconds it. We typically discuss it if there's any discussion. If not, all those in favor of, Representative Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure the motion is to put the letter together because I like to look at things before I agree to signing on to it. So I'd like to see the letter before we actually
Okay.
send it out.
Okay, that's reasonable, I think, for us to circulate the letter among the council members and see if everybody's going to be in agreement with it. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Thomas.
Thompson.
Thompson.
It might be good to note that over 50% of the Shoshone Bannock tribal members are on Medicaid at this point, and it might be good for the other tribes to identify the percentage of their Medicaid recipients as well in the letter.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, so at this point, the motion is to draft a letter on the subject matter Mr. Steele talked about, and we will circulate it among the council members. And if we can agree on the context of the letter, we will send it off to the agencies you recommended. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, council.
Our next item on the agenda is Senator Ben Adams, who wants to talk about Senate Joint Resolution 103, which I believe is a constitutional amendment for the state of Idaho's constitution. So introduce yourself, and you have the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. It is a pleasure to be here. And although all the issues that you've heard about today are important, the one that I'm about ready to talk to you about, I think, is paramount, which is the land in Idaho. As I'm sure most of you are aware, there have been renewed efforts to sell federally managed land in not just national, not just in Idaho, but throughout the West. And so this constitutional amendment, and Mr. Chairman, did the members of the committee get a copy of the amendment by chance?
I have a copy here. It looks like it's the last page in what was just handed to us.
Has it? Okay.
And by the way, the proposed language is the underlined language, which basically starts at the very bottom of page 1.
Correct. The lines on page 1, lines 10 through 40 is what is currently known as the endowment land that was granted to the state of Idaho in 1890 through the Admissions Act. What this does, and I think you can't talk about the second part of this amendment without talking about the first, which is the endowment land. So the endowment land has a very different function and purpose than the federally managed land in the state of Idaho. And that comes from the Admissions Act, where it's expressly to generate revenue for the beneficiaries in the state that it articulates in the Admissions Act. And at statehood, the state was granted 3.5 million acres of land. They now maintain 2.4 million acres. So 1 million of those acres have been sold off and are permanently unreachable. We can't go backwards in our Constitution and undo the 1890 Admissions Act. Congress could amend it, but we can't retroactively go back. What we can do is look forward. And what this amendment proposes to do is to look forward. We have, again, the 2.4 million acres of endowment land, but there are 32.8 million acres of federally managed public land in the state of Idaho. And what this amendment says, and I will walk through it and hit some specific things, but the fundamental point is, if the state of Idaho gets granted any of that land, it will not be sold, which is what the Admissions Act currently requires of the endowment. Now, we can't go backwards and undo the Admissions Act, but we can preempt the federal government from writing the rules for us going forward. Thank God for the 10th Amendment. So on page 2, and I'll just draw you to a couple specific points. On line 3, it separates the endowment from this new trust. It says all other lands granted to or acquired by the state, by or from the general government, which is the federal government, shall be held in a separate trust as public lands of the state of Idaho. It will remain inviolable and intact for this and future generations. Such lands shall not be sold. And then it creates a very high bar, 2/3 of the legislature, to exchange those lands. So the concept being this: right now they are public land and they're federally managed. In the event that they came to the state, they would be state managed public lands. And for them ever to be moved out of that protected status and replaced with other land, they could not be sold, they could be exchanged for other land. It would require an overwhelming support from the representatives of the people of Idaho. And I can tell you, as I've tried to navigate this constitutional amendment process, which also requires 2/3, it's not a low bar. It's pretty high. I'll also point to lines 10 and 11, where it talks about how the land will be managed. The land board will manage the land, employing the best management practices, and it goes through with some very specific language about harmonious and coordinated management and avoiding permanent impairment to the land. We don't want to destroy the land. Federal land is managed differently than the state, and we should look at it differently. It doesn't serve the same purpose. And then the endowment board will also coordinate that management with the different agencies of the state to promote things like wildlife habitat and watershed quality, things that are important to all of us. And then the revenues, any revenues that are made off of that land will first go back into that land. And then there are some other, a few other, specifically compensating counties. Right now, with federal land, counties get PILT, payment in lieu of taxes. If the land is not under the federal management, then they won't get that. And so this gives an opportunity for us to keep them whole so their taxes aren't drastically increasing. And supporting primary and secondary public education facilities, which is important because those rural areas with public lands in them have what SRS, Secure Rural Schools. If the land is not federal, again, they will not receive those funds. So this is not a push for transfer, and I think I need to make that clear. I am not a huge advocate for transfer. I think there are pieces of land that the state probably could manage better, and I think we're doing a lot of that management with good neighbor authority and things like that. But there is also a lot of checkerboarding across our state. And when it comes to the federal government, they move exceptionally slow and often inefficiently. And so I think creating a mechanism where we have another lever is important, where we don't lose a single acre to private sale. I think that's important for all Idahoans. And I could talk a lot longer, but I will shut up now and answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Senator Adams. Do we have any questions for Senator Adams? Chairman Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman Hart. Appreciate the presentation and the thought process that has gone into this about the federal lands. And of course, the Nez Perce and the rest of the tribes have a long relationship to these lands. Nez Perce dated back 16,500 years at Cooper's Ferry, oldest village site known in North America at this time. 1805, Lewis and Clark stumbled across the Bitterroot Mountains and ran into the Nez Perce. Nez Perce saved the Corps of Discovery, helped them through that. 1855, the Nez Perce signed a treaty with the United States of America prior to Idaho's 1890 admission into the Union. And shortly after that, the Dawes Act happened. And of course, we all know what the Dawes Act was, the Allotment Act, and the policies that were part of the Dawes Act were disastrous for accelerating the destruction of sovereignty and economic stability for tribal nations. It's true. It happened. It's what this country is right now. The Nez Perce in 1855 ceded over 13.2 million acres of land to the federal government, and much of that's in what is now central Idaho, which we reference as Nez Perce territory, or the timber reserves as it's referenced in our treaty language with the Nez Perce. Of course, the treaty then being ratified in 1859 now sits in the Constitution of the United States under Article 6, Clause 2, which, of course, we understand the Constitution and the rule of law and what that means from a federal perspective, as these federal lands have treaty rights attached to them, which I think is very important. And like I said, the cause is noble here, but as far as turning any federal lands over into state ownership, the state doesn't have the same responsibilities as the federal government does to the tribal nations when it comes to protection of those treaty rights for instance, in particular where the Nez Perce have these rights at. And so, the amounts of land that have been lost through the Dawes Act was around 90 million acres to all tribal nations. And you think about the Nez Perce at 13.2 million acres that was ceded, we've given up a lot already. And so supporting any type of action of converting federal lands into state ownership, the Nez Perce cannot support that at this time.
May I respond, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you.
Adams.
Thank you for those comments, Chairman Wheeler. And I fully understand the desire to keep lands federally managed. And I don't oppose that position. And this amendment does not encourage the opposite. This does not say the state should have the land. It does not say the state shouldn't. It says, what is the safety net that we have in Idaho? What is the safety net for federally managed public land in Idaho from being sold if it is granted to us, which I don't anticipate? But what is the message that we send here? Nobody wants these lands to be sold. Not in this room. And if we're not proactively moving towards the protection of those lands, whether they're federally managed or state managed, inaction is generally leads to regret. And so I do appreciate your comments on that and your position. I respect it. But I just wanted to make sure that it's clear this is not an advocacy for transfer. There's nothing in here that advocates for transfer. It advocates for protection from sale at the state level.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Chairman Wheeler, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Hart. Appreciate, the comments here. I think, slow-moving activity on the federal part. I think the tribe, the Nez Perce, can respect, that. We think 7 generations down. So, I'd like to mention, too, I have a special guest with me today. If she will stand up, Amaya Green, please stand up. It's my granddaughter. She's with me today experiencing the relationship here between the state and the tribe, which I think is one thing that I'm going to say is that the 7 generations that we think about, we're able to buy green bananas and wait for those things to mature. We're not looking for a turnaround on our investment today or tomorrow. So when we talk about economic value to these lands and what's it mean to the state, I think sustainability is something more long range that the tribe thinks about. And when we think about management of federal lands, we are a part of that management. So when you say the management of the state is sometimes slow, well, we're a part of that management. We have our scientists out there. We have our resources out there that are helping manage these federal lands now, currently. So by saying that, you point to us as possibly being part of the problem of slow-moving management out there. But from a perspective of the tribe, as we think 7 generations down, we think of the impacts that are going to happen to those lands with the actions that are taking place on those lands. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. If I could summarize the proposed constitutional amendment, it's sort of proactive. It's not anticipating, it's not asking for any of our public lands to be sold into private hands, but it's just in case the event happens where land is turned over to the state from the federal government, this prohibits its sale. So
yes, Mr. Chairman, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And Chairman Wheeler, I apologize if there was any offense taken. I was not referring to the tribes being slow or ineffective. I have a personal distaste for the United States federal government that is born from lived experience.
Well, I will comment on your statement that no one in this room wants these lands sold, and my family had me out in the woods when I was 4, and I'm spoiled. I like public lands. I like to be able to get out there in nature and feel like I can roam where I want to roam. So I'm definitely a supporter of not selling off our public lands. Any other comments for or questions for Senator Adams? This was informational, just to.
Of course.
Just to put out in public what your piece of legislation is that's working its way through both houses at the moment, and so this was just an informative item on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, there's a couple lights on.
Mr. Thomas, did you have a comment?
Yes, Co-Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Is it on? Yeah. Senator Adams, thank you for bringing this forth. I have understanding of Mike Lee's effort in Utah. So I know that I did speak with you regarding the permanent protection of the Hawaii Canyon lands. And we have a resolution that I presented to the 5 tribes this morning regarding the affiliated tribes of the Northwest and National Congress of American Indians, who approved the resolution for permanent protection of the Hawaii Canyon lands. And we'd like to see that extended, not just in the metropolitan area here. So to us, Shoshone-Paiute Valley, similar to what Chairman Wheeler mentioned, we have 2 unratified treaties. And I don't want to get on the weeds on this, but unratified treaty of Fort Boise and the unratified treaty of the Bruno Valley. After the Fort Boise Valley Treaty was signed, my grandfathers were executed by the cavalry. And then because of a few misspellings in that treaty was deemed unratified. I mean, if we want to talk about statehood, in 1890, those are in 1864 and 1866. Do justice. If you want to be frank about your efforts here, we still have inherent rights. We made an effort to approach Congress. I know you mentioned you don't want to go backwards, but in all honesty, to me, looking at it, the door's opening and you're opening the door. So it's a double-edged sword. And I think it's long overdue. We don't, similar to what Chairman Wheeler stated, I echo his sentiments as well. But there's got to come a time and place when that discussion and effort needs to be made regarding our land here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Senator Adams, any
Just a
response?
brief comment. Thank you, Mr. Thomas, and it's a pleasure to put a face to a voice, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I'm glad you guys moved those. I'm sorry. What did you guys agree to?
The letter,
term.
the Medicaid letter is what we've,
No. This morning with the 5 tribes.
the resolution?
The resolution. I'm glad you guys are moving that forward. I'm not saying that we shouldn't look back on previous treaties that have, well, the federal government did not live up to their end of the bargain. I'm saying that this amendment does not address those. It looks forward in a protective manner of the land. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Adams. Co-Chair Matheson, question for our presenter. Your mic is on.
Yeah, Senator Adams, I appreciate you being here. I guess maybe the part that might be a little bit confusing is you maybe started off talking about the selling off of public lands at a national level, then the suggestion, right, is that this would remedy that, which then implies, right, that we're talking about federal lands, and I'm a little confused on how this then remedies the selling off of public lands at a national level like that. And I guess what I'm concerned about is whether this would encourage the transfer of lands, even though it doesn't necessarily address it directly like that, but it might encourage that. And in your statements about this kind of addressing the selling off of public lands nationally kind of implies that a little bit, and I don't know if you can address that or not.
Absolutely.
Senator.
Co-Chair and Coach Matheson. You are correct. We don't get to tell the federal government they can't sell off the land that they hold the deed to. However, we have the people's vote. And the people's vote is very powerful. And what we can't do is say, you can't sell off federal land. What we can say is, if we were you, we wouldn't sell. If we were the holders of the deed, we wouldn't sell. And if this were to go on the ballot, I have no doubt it would receive overwhelming support from the people of Idaho across the board. And it would create a scenario, and this is again looking forward, but it creates a scenario where for the next 50 years, Idaho doesn't send anybody to Washington, D.C. who wants to sell that land. And I like that idea. I've discussed this a couple times, and I wouldn't expect you all to know my background. I grew up as a Christian missionary kid in Eastern Europe. My parents did Christian missions over there. And I then joined the Marine Corps when I came back, and I deployed in service of this country. And you may be connecting some dots on why I have a sincere distrust for this country. And I served with members of Native American tribes. Most of them were from Minnesota, though. Amazing people that I'm still in contact with today. And I gained a lot of appreciation for history I did not know. I've been a legislator for 6 years. And all too often, I see people they write laws and they do things to live another day. Let's just kick the can down the road. I'm a warrior. In my heart, in my mind, I want to win the war. And to win the war, we have to create an environment that is advantageous for the people who want to preserve the land, who want to reclaim it for the people. And so, yes, it does not solve the whole pie, but it puts us in an infinitely stronger political position to start having the hard conversations at the higher levels of government. And hopefully that answers your question.
Just a quick follow-up. And first, I want to thank you for your service. I appreciate that. Do you have, by chance with you, data on how much federal lands nationwide are being sold, both at an acre, but also as a percentage also?
Senator Adams.
Mr. Chairman, Coach Matheson, I do not have the most recent data on the recent sales. What I do know is currently at the federal level, without Congress even being notified, the Department of Interior can sell less than 2,500 acres without Congress ever knowing it was sold. And they can sell more than that, and they give Congress a letter that says we're selling this land, and Congress has, I believe it's 30 days to get together and agree on something, which is, again, not their expertise. There are issues with federal land that need to be addressed at the federal level. Absolutely. I am not your congressman. I am not your U.S. senator. I am a state senator who lives here and who deeply cares about the land we have here. And so I want to do everything in my power to give us the strongest battle position, regardless of how much is getting sold this week or next week.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, well, we're not taking any action on this.
Absolutely.
This was just to educate us. We skipped over the minutes, and then also it's probably appropriate to
Mr.
ask-
Chairman, could I just do a final remark?
Okay.
If you're
go ahead.
willing.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know I talked a lot, so I will keep it brief. Thank you all for allowing me to come and speak to you. I understand that the responsibility that you all hold, and I respect and appreciate the thought that goes into your decision-making. Nobody agrees all the time. But I want to thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you and share my heart on this issue, and I hope you felt it. I hope you heard me loud and clear.
Okay,
Thank you,
Senator
Mr. Chairman.
Adams. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Okay, is there any new business that we should talk about as a council while we're all assembled here? We still had the minutes from our last meeting. I've read the minutes. They seem in order to me. Typically, we get a motion to approve the minutes, and that action goes into minutes. Senator Mitchell.
Thank you, Co-Chair. I make a motion to approve the minutes for Thursday, January 23rd, 2025.
Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Mr. Matheson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. With that, if there's no other business for the council, we will,
Right here.
Senator, your light's been on the whole time, so I don't know when you're gonna talk, when you don't.
You looked at me and looked the other way.
All right. Do you have a comment, Mr. Thomas?
Yes. Thank you, Chair, Co-Chair. As discussed this morning, the arrival of, some ancestors to our land, they're celebrating the 250 years. Like to find out what the state's doing here in Idaho, because we as tribal nations would like to be a part of welcoming, you folks again properly. And I don't know what's on the schedule with the state of Idaho. I don't know if you're aware, Mr. Co-Chair, but as tribal nations, we'd love to
Participate.
yes.
Okay.
And I know our tribe, and I know some of the other tribes that we have over the years with some of our chairmen. We've brought our big drum here, and we have sang songs here over the years. And of course, we have the return of the Boise Valley, and there's other types of celebrations throughout the state that our tribal nations have. And so just like to be involved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comment. And gosh, the guy who's leading that effort for the legislature was Senator Adams, who just left. But Representative Mitchell, you have a response.
I do, and just so that the good co-chair is aware, I'm the other co-chair of the America 250 committee.
Okay, good.
So I am leading that effort too. So I've got quite a bit of information on what we're doing. So we're doing several things. One of the biggest, our big event this year is going to be out here on the Capitol Mall on the 4th of July, where we're going to have a parade and we're going to have a whole bunch of activities going on in the park across from us. And so we'd love to invite you guys out and coordinate with you to have some stuff going on. It'd be great. A couple of other things that we're doing. We sent our Liberty Bell that was in front of our Capitol. We sent it off to be restored at the original foundry that they built it at. And so they're restoring it. And then when it comes back, we're going to be traveling it around the state to each one of the counties so that people can actually come out and touch it, ring it, actually be part of that. We've got what they call an ambassador program that's going on. So if you go to online, we've got America 250 in Idaho online. It lays out a calendar of everything that we're doing, and so there's a lot of activities that are going on that you can look at and see what might be happening in your area. We did each one of the cities and counties got a little bit of seed money to put on a big celebration. So your counties and cities are going to be doing some stuff as well. And so we've got quite a few things that are happening. The easiest way to find out all the information that you can is on the the America 250 in Idaho website. We also did this year we're doing a year of volunteerism, which was kind of a big deal out here. We've got our state has the most, and there's a company or a group called Just Serve, and they give a city after so many hours of volunteer, they give them a city designation of being a just served city. Well, because we're doing a year of volunteerism here in Idaho, we've actually been designated as a just served state. And so IdahoKindness.com, I think it is, that actually you can put in service hours. We're trying to get 250,000 acts of service by July 4th as well. So there's quite a few things happening. Like I said, the easiest way to stay on top of what's going on and getting involved is from logging onto the website and seeing what the calendar of events are. And in every part of the state, we actually have ambassadors set up to help with different things that might be going on. We've got the Spuddy Buddies that are designed for, like our founding fathers, that were traveling around the state as well, and they've actually traveled more than just the state because I took one of them to D.C. to discuss things, and so there's a lot of things going on, but that's the easiest way to find out what we have in activities, and it'd be awesome to be able to combine some of that stuff and bring you guys in and just enjoy some time. I'm hoping that this America 250 thing unites us as a nation, as a state, so that we can actually build on that unity that America was founded on.
Okay, thank you, Representative Mitchell. Before we adjourn, any other comments, questions? From Wheeler.
I just have one, and it's on the partnership and unity of the country, and the Nez Perce and our position with the United States of America signing the treaty. That was a partnership, a contract between two nations under mutual agreement for mutual benefit that we would all thrive and prosper in this country. And we're continuing to uphold our end of the bargain, and we look to continue that and find the Idaho and the relationship that we build with the state legislation and the governor and all the agencies of the state of Idaho continue to grow, and we look for that growth to be maintained through the upcoming years. But how do we continue to strengthen that? And that's by meetings like this, the Idaho Council on Indian Affairs, and communication, just continuing to speak to one another and understand one another in the positions of who we are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think we're ready to adjourn. We can take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.